I'm Jamie Seeker, and this is What It Takes. Each episode, I sit down with real business owners to talk about their journey, the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. Let's dive in. Welcome back to What It Takes, where we dive deep into the journeys of entrepreneurs and business owners as they share their wins, challenges, and lessons from their paths to success. Today, I'm so excited. We have a very special guest, Shannon Englert, the visionary owner of DYAD Immigration Law. Shannon combines her passion for language, culture, and law to help businesses and families navigate the complexities of immigration. From her early days as a translator to becoming a managing attorney, Shannon's journey has been driven by her dedication to strengthening communities through compassionate legal support. We'll explore the challenges of running a mission-driven law firm and the vital work that DYAD does to help individuals achieve their American dream. So welcome, Shannon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited we're getting to talk like this. Can you tell us a little bit about the journey that led you from working as a translator to then now where you are founding DYAD Immigration Law?
So I really thought my career was going to be a translator, interpreter, and I worked to get certified in that area. And I was working with an immigration firm, and I kind of was just noticing the needs of the clients weren't always met, and it was more run from a business need. And I truly started seeing just how wonderful these people were and hardworking, and decided, you know what, I think I can do better. I can serve them better than they're being served from the attorney I worked for was really great, but we need more of us out there. We need more advocates. And so, I just decided, hey, let's go to law school and do it and really go for this mission-driven ideal instead of just practicing my Spanish and getting to keep my language skills up. I was like, yeah, let's go all the way and really make a difference.
That's awesome. And I think it's a certain type of person that can see something and then somebody else who, one, has the means, and two, the drive and the passion to actually do something about it. So what happened? Was there like that kind of grabbed onto that deep connection to immigration law? How did your experience in maybe Chile play a role in that?
So great question. I was an exchange student in Chile, and my visa expired, and I went and I was able to get an extension to stay as a tourist. But I realized really quickly, hey, even though I want to stay in this country, I can't, and it's really hard. And there was no one guiding me on what I could do. And so at the time, I was fortunate enough to be okay to come home. And that was just economically the only thing I could do. I couldn't afford to stay. And so it just stuck with me then that, you know what, immigration isn't easy, and we just think it is. As a lot of times we're born here and we can just travel to a lot of countries without that much permission. And so I really thought, not a complicated situation. Then when I became an interpreter, saw just how complicated the American immigration system is, and kind of stacked against anyone trying to do it correctly, and there's no takebacks. There's no, hey, an attorney misfiled for me and now I'm out of status. There's no like, oh, we forgive you for that. It's really, really high risks, and the level and quality of people that we were working with, it was just like, these are who we want as our neighbors. And when we're not able to save them and they do have to leave the country, it's just like, wow, this isn't how it's supposed to be. So let me try to do my part. And so, yeah, I just at 30 decided to go back to law school and go nights and weekends.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And immigration law isn't just some, easy thing to get into. It can be incredibly complex, right? Like what have been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in that area?
So law school in and of itself is a feat. And then immigration
Yes.
law is considered pretty much the second most complicated area of law. And it absolutely, people think it's just a form. Well, that's not absolutely true. And if you know what form to fill out and why you qualify, but one day difference or one specific fact difference, that might not be the right form. And so there are great parts that make sense, and there are very complicated parts that don't make logical sense. And so, yeah, it's something you have to really read up on and train. And unfortunately, a lot of the law schools don't even train on it.
Wow. Yeah. And I actually personally know people who are currently going through this, and one little form, or so they say, can set you back years. It's not just, oh, okay, here, let me get you a new one. It's really, if it doesn't count you out, it really is, it's a huge blow that we can't really, it's not something that I think we see tangibly every day that's comparable to anything that we go through in the United States.
And also the how much it costs.
Mm.
The cost of even just the filing fees, say you knew what you were going to do and how to do it, the cost of it alone is sometimes just obscene compared to other immigration procedures in other countries. So it's very cost prohibitive for a lot of people, and it's very complex. And so yeah, it's a very interesting area of law with a lot of complexities, but it's an honor to, yes, we charge for our services, but I feel like we serve our clients. It's just an honor to help them through the process.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things that I love about you guys is just the personal. I think there's a lot of you in the company and in the business, and knowing you personally and Chad as well. It's really kind of cool to see and hear your perspective. We've never actually talked about these deep things, but I do know that you focus on sensitive cases like visas for trafficking and domestic violence victims. How do you handle that really heavy emotional, like a lot of those kind of legal challenges that come with those cases?
So in a way, we shift the paradigm. We don't treat them as victims. That's something that happened, but that doesn't define them. And then we're going to turn that negative into a positive. We're going to actually get them to remain here and be safe and be documented in this country despite everything they've suffered. And when we shift that paradigm for ourselves, we also shift it for the client. And so in many unspoken ways, we see them heal along the process because we're not treating them like victims. It's a really empowering and beautiful thing. Someone came into the office the other day and I didn't recognize him. And I think it's because he now, and I have chills. He now has his documents. He can come and go from the country. And it's like he was broader. He stood up taller. He was proud. And it was just like, wow, okay, yeah, we changed his life.
Yeah. Well, that actually gets me thinking, like, do you have, it's really cool when you see people kind of come back, and I feel the same way. And it's not nearly like that for us on our side, but just that little snippet of just seeing where a client is that we maybe have worked with in the past. And I know the reward I get, and it's just, day-to-day business stuff or seeing them succeed. I think it's kind of a human thing, is like championing other people, whether it looks like it or not on the outside. Of the things in the climate that we're going through right now, and culture seems so negative, but everyone that I talk to is genuinely excited and happy when they see others that they know that maybe they were a part of their life for a minute, they're succeeding. Tell me about like a time or a memorable case that you had, or something that kind of just sticks with you that made a significant impact on maybe somebody else's life that you got to witness.
Well, first, I think it's also perfect timing for me to thank you because you've obviously been a key part to our
Oh,
growth. You've definitely been a confidant, and your services have always been just spot on what we need. Even when we don't know, I know I've called you crying. I know I freaked out. Like there's just so many times as an entrepreneur you feel alone, and then that alone really has helped us. And so one of the ways well, there's this one case, I don't want to give too many details, but she was trafficked essentially into the country. She was a minor, told to tell immigration she wasn't. Came to the law office where I worked when I was an interpreter. She was told, look, there's nothing you can do. You were ordered removed. Wait until they catch you again and we'll try an asylum, but it won't work. Like nothing proactive. She just stayed in the shadows for quite a long time. She contacted me right before COVID, and just to say hi. She'd heard to see if there was anything she could do. Her husband had just been deported, and a week later she gets picked up by immigration. And in digging through and getting to re-know her from decades prior, I realized she had been trafficked. No one noticed. No one did the right intake and questionnaire on her to find these things out, because you can't just go to someone and say, "Are you trafficked?" They don't know what that word means under the law. And also, most people who arrive here safely, whether they've suffered or not, are never going to admit they were trafficked because they don't view themselves as victims because they survived. So here she's stuck in jail. I'm trying to get her out. It's COVID. It's shut down. They tried to deport her 3 times. They pack her cell up. She's still in the facility. I paused the deportation. Then they have her on the bus to the plane. I'm able to stop the deportation. Then they have her on the plane, and I'm able to get her off the plane. So I do believe angels exist in that regard, and I'm just so glad that worked. And she has her we're filing for the green card. She won her T visa finally, and we're getting her green card. And her husband, who had been deported and who had to come back forcibly to try to save the rest of the family, also got his case approved. So they're golden. The government did
Wow.
everything they could to try to get her and her family out, and we were able to stop it.
Wow. I feel like, man, and if you weren't there, if you weren't doing this, it's not
Yeah.
like, oh, we have a million other immigration law firms, which we do, but to what extent are they fighting that fight? That's what I love so much about you guys and your passion, and just, not missing those details, and just being able to identify that and fight for it.
Key factors of the details, like you teach us, when in our coaching, like focus on the details, and how data matters, and different things matter. Same thing. If we get so used to just going doing cursory work, we're never going to get to the heart of what's really going on. And so with her, we were able to save it. Obviously, there's some it's that we can't, and we're also very honest with our clients.
Yeah.
Can we not? Like, I'm currently trying to stop a deportation right now, and we're trying. That's the very stressful side of the work, I gotta say. But
How do you
the
do
reward is
that?
amazing.
Yeah. How
Yeah, I
how do
mean,
you do that with like I feel like there's such an emotional investment on that part of
mm,
it because you know what's on the line. But I also know you and I have never discussed that part of it.
no,
I've only discussed like the balancing the business side of running a law firm, and all of this bucket, right? But
yeah.
how do you manage that, and really still be mission driven and focused first with your law firm, but still, hey, we've got to stay business minded here.
So we really live by our core values, and train our staff. We actually even do an interview for core values for someone to even be able to work with us. We want to be aligned. And in fact, people self-select out during this process often. And it's like
Yes.
perfect. We don't, like, not that they're bad, they just aren't aligned. And we need people who want to help and who care to help. And we also implement obviously, if someone needs time off after a hard intake or reading of a hard declaration or hearing a hard story, we're really compassionate with our staff. And we ask them what their personal, professional, and financial goals are, and we try to tie them into the company goals so that we are all winning. And then all these company wins of getting legal status or some sort of protection, even if it's temporary, and getting a green card or a citizenship, we try to either record them, have as many people in the office on that day as possible so that the team can see it and feel it, and see the end result of why we struggle through the pain part.
That's really cool. And that's a really big takeaway, I think, if you're really a business owner. And I love that you're touching on that, because I am aware of obviously the onboarding process and whatnot, but surrounding yourself with people who are aligned with your mission and your vision for your company is something that you really just you can't compromise on if you want to run a mission driven business, right?
And we're in a hiring frenzy right now. We really need people, but we always have to go back to, are they aligned?
Yeah.
and
Yep.
and and we have these conversations, and sometimes people don't interview great. And so but we do a conversation interview, then we do a core value interview, and we allow them to kind of create that on their own. I had attorneys that I thought were going to do great, and they refused to record the core value interview.
Yeah.
I'm like, you
Yeah.
know what?
Says a lot.
And what else are
Yeah.
you going to not do that I need done?
Yeah.
And for the client. And if I can't be assured you're going to align, then maybe we can't work on the same team. But it's hard because your mind plays tricks on you. You're like, oh, but I really need
They're
someone to have
so
the right.
great. Yeah.
They're so great. You're like, wait,
Yeah.
is it?
And they
And they're
are.
into it.
Yeah. And they
And they
probably are. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
somewhere else, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so that's just it. It's like you do meet, and I tend to like immediately feel if I like the person. So I'm like, they look like a great person, but that doesn't mean they're meant to work with me.
Yeah, that's also a really great takeaway is there are really, really great people that are highly skilled that you know can make a difference in your business, but are they the right fit and is it really going to work long term? And I think it just comes down to what we talked about. And one thing that I want to touch on before we start to wrap up and I ask you my last question, is just like culture today. And you see the ever changing like political, social climate. How do you see DYAD's role in shaping the future of immigration law with all of that stuff happening right now?
We take immense pride in what we do and also in this country. And I think it's a change of like we don't really go political because we're American. We love this country, and we want to help other people stay in this country, but with a responsibility of, you know what? I work with people that I can envision being my personal neighbor right next door to me. And anytime I have a decision or a question or a concern, I'm like, would I walk out my door right now and want to see them as my neighbor? And because we all have a responsibility in this society to take care of one of another. And so we just hold ourselves to that standard. And that standard is part of our value system. And in fact, we were talking today, like so and so wants to start a case, and I'm reading through, and I really need to know, like, were you young and dumb and had one DUI when you were young, or are you a habitual drunkard who are you're putting me and my family at risk every day? So it just depends. And I got to tell you, the majority of the people, they're so proud. They come to me. I had this family the other week, over 20 years of tax returns. They only have a tax identification number, which means they do not get refunds. And they file taxes and they get paid in cash and they report everything.
Oh, that's amazing.
And they were just like, no, one day we know we are going to qualify and we respect this country and we want to show we pay whatever we need to pay. And it was like so heartwarming that these are the people we serve and get to help. And so if someone tells me, hey, I've been taking advantage of the system and I want to know how I can take advantage more. No, you're not going to be for us. We're not going to help you. So yeah,
Yeah.
we just have a high criteria also for staff and for team members and for clients.
That's a huge one too. Before I ask you the last question, I think that's a hard lesson, right? Is because as a business owner, you're here to do business, right? Like I can't serve my mission and I can't do what I want to do if I can't keep the doors open. So it really does, you find yourself in this moment where you're like, oh, well, it's gonna, let's do the deal or let's bring them on. But sometimes, and it's the same kind of struggle that we have when we're hiring, right? I really, really, really need this employee. I really, really, really need this customer or this client, but you really don't. It's going to hurt you in the long run. And so it's worth it to say, no, I'm not going to make this sale or I'm not going to work with this client for now. And it maybe is going to sting in the short run, but in the long run, like this is really what we need to do. And I've personally done it and it's hard. It is hard. And I always thought like, oh yeah, that's going to be easy for us because that's what my mission and my vision's all about. And it's not. It's hard. It is hard to do when you're faced with it. But I will say that it is worth it. And they are good people, good customers, good clients, just not the right fit for us, right? And so I think that's another huge learning thing that I had to pick up over a long period of time.
And you do learn, right? You make exceptions or you think this one will be different or something like that. And then you just come
Right.
through with like, no, I've learned and this is where I'm okay, what I'm okay with. But also we set out to kind of be very transparent, not kind of, we are transparent with our staff, but also with our clients on social media, who we are. And I firmly believe we attract what we put out there. And so we're not trying to attract everyone. We're not trying to, have people come in, get a consultation, and then be told no. And no, we don't want to waste their time either. So it's also that very intentional effort, either internal marketing and teamwork building or external marketing for clients.
Oh, that part right there. That's huge. Yes. Okay. So my last question before we wrap up, and it has to do with, the title of this podcast is What It Takes. So keeping that in mind, what advice would you give to aspiring immigration lawyers or even just entrepreneurs who want to build like a mission-driven business? What do you feel like, what does it take to do something like that?
So I absolutely believe law firms are also just businesses. We are all alike. We have the same parts of a business. We have same struggles, same growth, breaking points and whatnot, and staff issues. So what does it take? It absolutely takes action, no excuses, the ability to and willingness to fail. So while someone's still analyzing if their plan is perfect, I've already tried 2 or 3 things, failed, learned, improved, and I'm already ahead. So it's some of my team, they joke, they're like, Shannon, you jump out of the plane without a parachute and wonder how you're going to create it on the way down. But I do. I just move forward, and no excuses. If you're around a world of people that are going to give you excuses as to why it won't work or why it's okay to not do the work that's required, you're never going to succeed. So put your head down, do the work, only listen to positivity. If you don't have it around you, listen to podcasts about people who do it. And we don't talk to a lot of people about what we do for that reason, because negative responses back to us is just not going to work. And I do work with my husband, Chad. So we bounce these ideas off of each other, but it's the no excuses.
I love that. I love that. And I think that you've really shown that from day one. You saw something in the beginning and you're like, oh, I'll just go to law school then, because I see a need and I'm just going to fill it. So no excuse. I'm going to do what it takes to go and do that. And so I'm going to end on that note. I wish we could have talked about working with Chad too, but I was like, you know what? I feel like this is really cool stuff. So I wanted to dive into all the mission stuff. But Shannon, thank you so much for sharing your inspiring, very inspiring journey and the incredible work that DYAD Immigration Law is doing to support individuals and families. Where can somebody find you if they're looking for you?
So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, DYAD Law. And we are on the social medias all the time. I'm going to start going live more, and our website as well, dyadlaw.com.
Yeah, so check them out. Your dedication to helping people navigate complex immigration processes with the compassion, I think, is the key piece there. It really truly is remarkable. And I'm not saying that just because I know you. I think anybody that just listened to this conversation is going to be like, wow. And just for our listeners, if you're looking to learn more about her work, definitely check out DYAD Immigration Law. They're online. Check out their website, their Instagram, any of their stories, and just stay tuned if you want to hear more about what it takes to succeed in business and beyond. Thanks for joining.
This podcast is brought to you by Seeker Solution. Are you a business owner feeling overwhelmed? We can help. Head over to seekersolution.com to schedule a call today. Would you or someone you know like to be featured on this podcast? Our applications are now open. Apply today at seekersolution.com and click on the podcast link to get started.